Welcome to Making Pondo and Talking Pondo. Talking Pondo is a podcast where we pick out 2 movies each week and talk about them in detail. Making Pondo is a podcast where we talk to people we've made films with and we discuss all their experiences on set. Today on Making Pondo, we have Dr. Julie Schaffer, who has played the character Sarah in 4 of our movies.
And we're back. Who do we have today, Marty?
We're here today with Dr. Julie Schaffer, which is still your official screen name at this point, right? We've had other people who have a different name they use in their movies. I think we kept your name because that's the name you were using when you first came to us.
Yeah, so I go by a different name with my patients, but I kept my maiden name and I like that goes through all of the films and keep it that way.
Your patients can't find you.
It's my little secret.
So, Julie's been with us longer than
long.
I think everybody else that we have had on this season, and
Yep.
probably longer than most people that we have worked with. I always say, wow, we've only worked with you for 1 movie, but it felt like you were there for all 5. Well, Julie literally was there for all 4. She wasn't there for the very first one, but how did you come to find Pondo Enterprises all those years ago?
Yeah, I was trying to think of this. So I remember that I can't remember exactly how I found the ad or the casting call or however that came to me, but I do remember meeting you guys and doing the reading for you. I must have been, I was trying to think, I had like my hair was still dyed with my black tips and came in with my ripped jeans. And so I think I was about 13 maybe. And I found you guys. We did a reading in the back of Bookman's. My mom was of course with me. And, but I can't even remember how, like the opportunity sort of came up. It was so long ago.
I think it was a flyer, right? Didn't you guys find the flyer at the bookstore? I think that was the legend anyway.
I would not be surprised because I spent a lot of time in that bookstore. Nice. So, yeah.
And I remember the part you read for was supposed to be a guy originally.
That's
the
right.
Character that you play in the movie. And then we decided, or actually, you came in and you read something for us. I don't remember. I'd have to look back at that old tape. But then we had that idea of, wait a minute, what if we flip this character and read for that part of the magic cards, the person trying to sell the stolen magic cards, and it worked.
I do remember that because I think remember being so flattered. Like that was the coolest compliment that you guys had taken this character that was originally written for like a male character and you liked what I did and you were like, let's just change this for this girl. And I thought that was the coolest, greatest compliment I could get.
And we had you in on, and this is for Comic Book Diaries, that the old creaky first attempt at making a movie in a comic book store. And I think you came in to shoot on one of the last days of shooting, because I remember I was going through a mild crisis at the time, and I was laying down in the back room for the most part while you were shooting. And so Cliff was out there with you and Paul, and it felt like you guys spent like 4 hours on that scene. The full length of that magic card scene that we trimmed down in the movie, it ran something like 10 minutes originally.
It was a long scene.
We give you here's your first part. Here is like 10 pages of dialogue to memorize.
Right. Welcome to
you
the
all
film
seem to pull
world.
it off. How was that working with Paul on that first day?
Oh, I thought it was super fun. I think the setting at least is a very comfortable setting, right? Like being in a comic book store was not a very intimidating setting. So I think that really helped me a lot. And yeah, Paul was great. I mean, everyone I just remember was really great and I think really patient with me. So, it didn't feel like a lot. It was so much fun that I honestly don't remember it being 4 hours long. It felt like it went by so quickly.
That was I remember us having talks about like, okay, this is, we have a young person coming on set, so let's be on our best behavior because we're rowdy. It's a rowdy set. So we did our best. That script in general was probably one of the more vulgar of the scripts that we've ever written.
Oh,
So that
yeah, that movie especially.
whew, that was before
We
we
learned
really
not to do
cleaned
that
up our
so
act a
much.
bit there. Yeah, but it was interesting, and of course here you are in the middle of all that, just trying to do your little part and do your thing. It was great.
Yeah, it was fun. I don't think I really my scene was not particularly vulgar, so it,
Mm-mm.
it didn't really hit me until I think I watched the whole thing through that it was like, oh wow, this was like this little innocent little bit in this movie.
It really was.
You were there at that Hindenburg of a screening at the loft when we premiered it, and I realized how many f bombs were in the film as I sunk lower into my chair. And
Still the most brutal. I'm sitting there going, she brought her family to this. She brought her entire family to this. Oh, oh, this is brutal.
You know, I should ask. I bet my mom would remember too. She'd remember. She'd be like, "Oh, those guys, they had so many F-bombs."
So many, and we cleaned it up so much after that. Like I mean, if we place some vulgarity in the script, it's there for a reason. We put it
right.
there for a very good purpose. Like nope, nope,
There
I
was
put that f bomb right there for a reason. Leave it where it is.
there was dirtier stuff in comic book diaries that didn't even make the final cut. That
Mm-hmm.
even then we knew, no, that's too vulgar to have a customer yelling at JJ or whatever. And it's interesting because after that movie, it wasn't the greatest well received thing we've ever put out, to say the least. And usually when you do something like that, you move on to another project, and Cliff and I were trying to do that initially, but then the script we were coming up with, it kind of just turned into a reboot kind of sequel to Comic Book Diaries of a, well, let's try this again, but maybe hit it more on the head this time. And at first it was, no, no, we shouldn't do that again. That's crazy. Why are you making a sequel to a movie that most people didn't like? But we're like, no, we think we got a good idea here. And so then we brought you back as the same character. You're the only person to play the same character through all four of these movies.
Yep.
And
And
so what did you think?
we were adamant about that. Gotta have Julie back every time.
And you were
I
still alive
love that.
for that one, so we had to shoot during certain hours. But
Yep.
what did you think of your expanded role in writing Fren-Zee when you first saw that
Yeah,
script?
because you had a lot more to do in that one.
Oh my gosh, I loved it. That one I think was probably one of the most fun ones for me. And yeah, I do remember we were working around my actual school schedule because I also remember studying chemistry on set between things, like on the floor with my chemistry notebook. Um, but that was so much fun. I loved hanging out on set with everyone. I felt like really a huge like part of it, and pivotal in a lot of ways. And um it was I can't I also just when I look back and I think about I hear all of these really terrible, terrible stories about how women get treated on sets, and I just had such an opposite experience. um, like I had people. I remember there were nights where we would film late, and then I'd have the whole crew like stand outside and watch me get into my car safely and drive away, and like make sure that I was safe and everything. So, yeah, it was an awesome experience, I think.
There was a
Nice.
lot of talk about threatening your fiance when you were getting married during Revenge. There was a lot of discussion amongst the four of us of just like, should we just have a discussion with him about that we were a plane flight away and pain is an easy thing to administer. Anyway,
Well, I think we made part of the movie about that in a way
we
with
did.
the, if it's this guy, you let us know.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I think he he did not come with me to film the third one, right? But I think if he had at the time, that was right when we were about to get married.
Hmm.
Um, and I think he would have known. He would have felt it. He would have felt
Yeah,
the wrath of all of the team.
don't screw it up, dude. Don't do that. Oh, that's hilarious.
So when we moved into writing Fren-Zee, that's when Eric and Nate joined the crew. What was your first impressions of meeting them? Do you recall anything like that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think, let's see, Eric is so dedicated and so serious, and I just have so much respect for how much he really puts into everything that he does. He gives it 120% at all times. And that's just incredibly cool to me. His passion is really admirable. And then Nate is always just such a joy to be around. Like he makes you smile at all times. So many of the scenes that I filmed with him, we had to like stop and take laughter breaks because we couldn't get through. Like, okay, wait, now it's time to be serious and we need to do the serious lines. But I mean, luckily Pete, is also a funny guy, and so I think that felt very genuine.
Yeah, I always thought you two had a good rapport, going as far back as writing Frenzy. That was some of the stuff on day one. Was just okay. We're shooting the scenes between you and Nate, and it wasn't until we had the first screening of Writing Frenzy that we knew for certain, because you don't really know until you show it to people, that the scenes weren't completely awkward and cringy, that they actually played very funny, and the audiences laughed at them and they understood the jokes. And so
Yeah,
when we
there was
moved
some nervousness
into
around that.
Revenge of Zoe, it was okay, you got to have the continuation of the Sarah and the Nate storyline, which I think we managed to do all the way up through Love Song, where it's like this is one of the major subplots now. So, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then when we moved on to Revenge of Zoe, it was almost like a whole new playing field. Here we are doing yet another movie about the comic book shop, but now we have Bradford entering into the mix, and many other new people as well. But what was your first impression of Trojan?
Oh gosh. I
Yeah.
think I was very intimidated by him. He tended to be very connected with his character on the set. And so it sort of felt like almost like I couldn't quite approach him. Like, oh, I don't want to like break his concentration on being in this zone. That's a very, you know, uh, it's not an easy character to play. It's not like a real lighthearted, easy sort of character that he was playing. And so I think that was maybe a little bit more intimidating for me than like Eric or Nate.
Yeah, he was he's kind of intense on set, right? Like, I mean, and not in a bad way, not in
No,
like
not in a
a,
bad way.
but in like a, oh, I don't want to mess his vibe or his rhythm up, right? Like you can see he's really in the pocket with the character. I don't want to mess that up. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
try directing that. That was.
Mhm.
I want to go back to writing Frenzy real quick because Marty brought up, cringy, and you dubbed a certain scene in that movie the creeper scene. I think you and Nate called it the creeper scene. And that's the one where you've got the crush on him and he turns it around on you and is like, yeah, we should go out. And, I've been thinking about you and blah, 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 blah. And the whole scene plays out and you're like, and he's like, see how stupid that is? Like, anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but I thought it played well.
Well, and I think that was such a smart way for him to play it, right? Because there was no getting rid of that crush that Sarah had on him.
Right.
And
And it was
really
getting
facing it
worse.
head on. I think facing it head on and like turning the awkwardness back on Sarah instead of, this infatuation that Sarah had with him and how awkward that was for him, right? And so I think flipping it on her was like, oh no. And that scene was hard to play, I think, because that's so not Nate, right? That's just not he was never going to put me as Julie in an uncomfortable situation.
Right,
And
right.
so that scene was hard, I think, for us to get through. It felt very unnatural, but was the point of it, right?
Yeah, and I like I said, I think it played, and I think the audience, we have, the audience got it, which is like, oh, okay, he's turning the tables on her here.
Yeah.
It was a much a much different reaction than the first movie, which mostly just got silence or people scowling at me on the way out of the theater.
Oh,
It was like
jeez.
people actually reacting to these more intense, character driven scenes, and so that's why writing Fren-Zee is always very important to me, because it's the point where it's like, ah, yes, this is what you do to make something that engages with the audience more, and you were a big part of that going into
Big, very big.
because you were there
Well,
with us back in the weird times, and then you came along to when we started doing some quality stuff too.
Mhm.
yeah, and that's, I mean, it's hard for you because, I mean, you spend so much time, right, creating these characters and really what they come across in your head, and then maybe that's not the same thing that people are seeing, but you don't
Yeah.
know that for until you're like, you know, so much time and energy invested in these characters on your end as, the creators of all of this. So I'm happy that it came together in the end and you got some good feedback from audiences.
One of my favorite memories is when we finished Zoe, and you looked at me, and we had no plans of making a sequel. Like, we were done. Revenge of Zoe was the sequel that we hadn't even planned on in the first place, right? And so we were like, okay, we'll do this and then we're done. And I think one of your last days on set, and you looked at me and you said, now if we do a sequel to this, I want to be in the Fren-Zee costume. I want to, you have to put me in the Fren-Zee costume. And I was like, okay, well, I hadn't considered a sequel, but yeah, if we do a sequel, you're definitely going into the Fren-Zee costume. And then it ends up that we put four or five actresses in the Fren-Zee costumes. It's great. Like, we've got
And almost everybody. Huh.
group Fren-Zee photos of you guys and Billy that are probably going to end up being the poster for
Yeah.
the film.
Amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was so much fun. And I remember when you contacted me, tell me that you were doing another one, you were like, I think one of the first things you said was, we got you in the costume. You're going to do it. Are you still okay with this? But we got it. And I remembered. So that was great.
So get ready.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah. Ginger did a great job assembling all the different elements that created that updated Fren-Zee costume, right down to the boots that we had to special order. Yeah. I look back on it now and it's like, oh, if I'd had the forethought, I would have had, even more Fren-Zee costumes. So we would, put everybody in them. I think a few people got left out of it.
Yeah.
But we were kind of, fly by the seat of our pants with that whole production, where we had to shoot part of it at Tucson in 2019 and then shoot another part of it in March of 2020. Oh, that's good timing. March of 2020, let's start shooting a movie on Friday the 13th, March 2020.
Was it really the Friday the 13th?
It was.
First
It
day.
was.
And then we finished in June of 21. So it's just, wow. So there was a lot of things that fell through the cracks, but yet when you watch the movie, hopefully, it feels like it all happened over the course of like 3 or 4 days. You wouldn't even know that this person's on the phone talking to this person in another year. It just seems like it's all natural.
Well, yeah, and I do have to say, one of the things that I remember being on set with you, Marty, was how incredibly thoughtful and particular and detail focused you were. Like, you would notice, oh no, this door has to be closed like 3/4 of the way instead of a halfway, and like, wait, these were askew before on the shelf and now they're straight, who straightened them, and stuff like that. So I feel like creating that continuity was something that you were so incredibly, I don't even know how you could keep track of all of those details, but I always loved and had so much respect. And I think now I watch movies, and when they don't do that, I'm like, I'm out of it.
Right.
No, it takes me completely out of the film. And I'm like, I lost it. They didn't put the door in the same way.
Marty would have caught that. Sorry. Yep.
Exactly.
No, it's still, I mean, I've worked with the cat for 25 years. It still surprises me. We were on Love Song shooting in the comic book store, and there's that sliding door. You remember?
That's right. Yeah.
You remember the scene with Pete where you're talking to him in the office, and you close that sliding door and open it back up, right, to talk to him. And so we're shooting outside of that, and somebody had walked through the office and moved that sliding door, and I yell action, and Marty's like, no, the door's wrong, and I'm like, ugh, cut.
Mhm.
Okay, fix the door. Like, please stop touching the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's what those early, horrible experiences of the screenings kind of beat into you. When you get a bad response from an audience, it's like, oh, well, you better do good next time or they're going to act like that again. It's like, I don't want to go through that again. So put that door in the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sat through. Yeah, you sat through the most. That's another reason. Like your old school Pondo, you sat through the worst screening that we've ever had
Yeah,
in our
everybody
lives.
else, they were just with the
They,
people love our movies thing.
yeah,
They
that's
didn't
the
even
yeah you
experience the
yeah
tumultuous
you
times.
crawled through the mud with us on that one. So
I still had fun. I came back, so
yeah,
it wasn't that bad, guys.
That's the thing is shooting Comic Book Diaries was a blast. We had a
yeah,
lot of fun doing it. It's just when we showed it to people, it was kind of like, oh, I guess our fun didn't translate onto the screen there. But then we
right.
figured out how to make that happen. Thankfully, I remember at one point Cliff was like, "We don't make a good movie. I can't do this anymore." It's like, okay, well, we'll make a really good movie. And then writing Fren-Zee happened.
Yeah,
Didn't we only? It was like 9 days or something like that, right? Where
I
we
think it was like a 9 or 10 day
we
shoot. Yeah,
shot that whole thing in under 2 weeks, and
yeah,
it
it
was
was
so
quick.
small a crew. Or it was like me and Mark Brady and Jonathan Ziegler behind the camera, and just the handful of actors. And like I remember at one point, I came in halfway through the shoot and said, "Well, guys, I don't have any more money for food. Where the budget's all gone." Everybody's like, "Ah, that's fine. Let's start shooting." Like Jonathan Northover would say repeatedly, "I'm not here to eat. I'm here to work." It's like, well, yeah, but you should still eat too.
Still eat. Should still eat. That's a big point of contention for us now. Is always have something like that.
Oh yeah, full meals and everything now, and maybe more than just Carl's Jr. But hey, that works too.
Well, and I do remember it was so wild whenever I came back again for, let's see, the
Love
third
song.
filming,
Yeah, love song.
right? And I just remember there was like, okay, there were so many more people on set, and there was so many more things, and like they were doing the different mics, and let's get you mic'd up, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, wait, but it's not just like one guy with the
Yeah,
Yeah. Where's the dude with the mic taped to the hockey stick, holding it over the?
exactly.
I remember Nate had that little bit of shell shock too, coming from writing Frenzy to the. I thought it was just gonna be. It's like no, each time you step it up and make it a little bit bigger, a little bit better. I remember feeling overwhelmed by it myself. I remember day one, turn around, 9 cameras would be pointed, taking a picture here. It's like, whoa, where all these people come from? Even when
Yeah.
we shot over at Tuscon, it was oh shit, we leveled up again. It's almost overwhelming, but then you take a step back and realize, no, this is where we wanted to go. Take a breath and realize this is a good thing because you have 20 people that are all doing the jobs that you used to do yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it a little easier, a
I
little
think
more fun.
it's like I think it was you actually. I think it was your sandwich during Love Song where we had a PA for the day, and he went to grab sandwiches for everybody, and yours was supposed to be something, and it was wrong or it was missing. And I just looked at the piano. I was like, you gotta go back and get her sandwich, man. Like I don't know what to tell you. And he's like, okay. So he hops back in the car and goes and gets you your sandwich. And I just thought, I mean, I know it sucks for that kid, but man, literally, I would have Marty running and doing this, and I wouldn't have him on set where I need him.
Mm-hmm.
So
where's the ice? It's been 2 hours.
Yeah, where's the ice? 2 bags of ice.
So most of your acting has been with us, right? Have you done many other projects?
Yeah, I've done like just sort of small things, nothing, commercials here and there, but nothing as large or extensive as I have with you guys. Yeah.
So is there a dream role if you had a choice of something you could play?
Oh, if I had like an absolute dream role, it would definitely be something that was, um, I love the characters that are almost plot twist in themselves. Like thinking about, um, like Severus Snape or Tyler Durden, like those sort of characters
Mm.
where as soon as you figure out whatever happened, you have to go back and rewatch the whole freaking movie because you have to know, you have to rewatch and relearn and see it through a new lens. So I just love those kinds of things.
Yeah, Bruce Willis in The Sixth Sense type of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Those
he's
sort of
dead the
things
whole
I think
time.
are just so fun and so well thought out and take so much time and energy and effort from, I mean, everyone, right? Starting from the conceptualization of the script and even the conceptualization of characters before you're even putting pen to paper or whatever, typing, right? It takes so much forethought, and I just love those kinds of characters.
Interesting. Do you have? I like to ask this question. It's one of my favorites. Do you have a favorite film that's based on music? Not necessarily a musical, but it could be a musical if you wanted. But like that's based on music or has music in it.
See, okay, and I think that there's really multiple answers to this
Mhm.
question based on musical or like
Give me.
soundtrack.
We're here. Give me both. Give me all of them.
Um,
Because I
okay, so
personally, I love music in movies, and I think it's really important. So I love. That's why I like this question.
well, I love so if we're just talking exclusively um music and movies that I'm gonna sing again and again and again, Rocky Horror Picture Show, I will re-sing
Oh,
that soundtrack at any given time, all times. Um, or, like classics like Wizards of Oz or Mary Poppins, I think the way that they incorporated music and made the songs into part of the story
yeah.
progression.
So
I
kind of
love those
moving the
sort of
story
things.
along.
Yeah. If we're just talking like soundtracks though, I love the Forrest Gump soundtrack, and I love how much that stretches through time and you use music through the various time periods in that movie, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah.
What's your answer? What's your
Oh,
answer, Cliff?
mine's so my favorite movie about music or with music is The Commitments, which is um which is about a bunch of kids in Ireland who start a rhythm and blues band, a soul band.
Yeah.
And so it's one of my favorites. Musicals, I mean, I lately La La Land is probably my favorite musical. I think it's brilliant on a level that's not going to be hidden for a long time. Like I don't think people are going to make another movie like that for a very long time. I think it's brilliant. So, but in
I actually
soundtrack,
have not seen La La Land.
oh,
I
it's
haven't
it's
seen it yet. I got to
worth
see it, I guess.
worth it. I mean, it's worth it. The last 20 minutes of that movie are brilliant, and the way that
Okay.
what he does with it, like even if you don't like the movie, go through it just to get to the last 20 minutes where you're like, oh, this is okay. It's really smart. It's well written anyway. And then soundtrack, like probably the best soundtrack maybe of all time is Judgment Night. Like that's probably the greatest soundtrack. Like the worst movie, but like that soundtrack sold more than the movie did. That's how good the soundtrack was. And the movie
Yeah.
was terrible. Um, you know, yeah. And scores, I'd probably say the Conan score for the guy who wrote. I can't remember his name, but he's a fantastic composer. What about you, Marty?
Oh, overall, it probably Nashville,
Uh
the
huh.
movie Nashville from the '70s. It's just it's about a bunch of musicians trying to get discovered in this gigantic town where everybody is trying to get discovered in music, and I just like the atmosphere of it. It reminds me of being at one of those giant music festivals with all sorts of noise and chaos going on, and because the whole movie's presented in that way, it's like 24 different plots all happening simultaneously, and they all come together at the end. But it's the closest representation in film that I've ever seen of feeling like you're in that atmosphere,
That
like you're
festival
out
environment.
there in that field. Yeah. And as far as like musicals themselves go, I mean, well, I have seen Rocky Horror in the theater like over 40 times, so that
Yeah.
might be right up there if I really had to stop and think about it. It's one of those, if you sing one of the songs or give me a line halfway through the movie, well, the rest of it's playing out in my head from there until to the very end.
Absolutely.
Can't help it. It's just that's how it's going to be. So,
That one's been particularly popular when I asked this question. That's been mentioned
yeah,
by a couple of different people about Rocky Horror Picture Show being their favorite. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You're not alone.
I
yeah.
mean, it's amazing, and it's still
It's
so much fun to watch, and it's so much fun to go to live.
Oh,
Lots
so
of
good live.
good energy.
Yeah.
mhm.
So you haven't. I know you've. This question may be a little bit weird because it's. I know you haven't worked with a lot of other people, but I always like to ask this question because it's as a director, I like to kind of hear people's ideas on this. But do you have feedback from a director that you really have found useful or important, or do you even like to get feedback from a director? Um, that type of thing. Curious.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the feedback is incredibly helpful. Um, I think probably the my goal is to make the director say that was better than I imagined it. That was better than how I had pictured it would play out, like whatever you did. And sometimes it's more specific than that. Sometimes there's like, oh, you did this look and it was the perfect look, or whatever it was in the scene that I did. But I think that's my ultimate goal,
Mm-hmm.
is just that it comes to life in a way that, whatever I'm doing is bringing the character to life in a way that you couldn't even have imagined. Um, and then I also just love, I think sometimes I'll hear like a big belly laugh from someone, from like you in particular. I think Cliff is like, and I'm like, yes, I nailed it. I did it. That's always a big compliment. Yeah.
It's
So
tough
I
for me
think it
not to
does
run
make a
shots.
big difference.
Good. Yeah, it's tough for me not to run shots when I'm on set, especially with it's especially tougher with people that I like and that I know that I'm working with, because then I'm like I'm kind of cheering them on and laughing. I'm like I want them to hear the laughter because I think it's important feedback, but at the same time I have to wait until I can say cut and then laugh. So it's a weird thing.
Yeah, you always hope for that experience on set, and as far as it turns into something unexpected and better than what you had hoped for going in,
Oh yeah.
and that's almost always the way in some ways, where you go in and you even see a location and you think, well, this isn't what I had in mind, but then you have to adapt to it, but then that ends up being better. It's like following the movie's path rather than trying to force it. That's one of the worst things you can do as a director, I think, is like, I wrote this script a year ago, it's set in stone and we're not changing anything. And it's like,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
not into
you
that.
got to be willing to go in there and be flexible with it and find the
Yep.
moments and stuff.
There's a great example of that. I think it's as far as it turning out better than I pictured it, which was um, we kind of turned your character Sarah into sort of an abusive, like rough and ready type of girl. Like, just not gonna. She didn't put up with a lot of crap from customers or whatever, and
I want you to
and
go out there
so
and beat that kid up. No, I want to beat him down or whatever
yeah,
the
I want to. Yeah, exactly. So there's that scene where I can't remember which actor it was says something to you, and then you end up chasing him out of the store with the rolled up comic book, right? And then later on, you're ramming the vacuum into Billy, right? So you can, because he said something, and
Yes, it was
uh,
amazing. So much fun.
it was so good, and it turned out so much better. Like I couldn't have given better direction, or it was perfect. Like the way you were just ram, 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 and he jumps up and squealing at you about it. It was so perfect. It was so perfect, and you were great. Like especially the running him out of the store with the comic book. Like it was hysterically funny. I totally believed it. I bought it completely.
That's good. And I think I loved those moments because I think they, um being at the time I was like, a 16-year-old girl with all of my whole host of insecurities and fears. And so I think there were times where I sort of drew strength from Sarah, of like, Sarah wouldn't take this shit. Like, let's do
Oh
it.
no,
Um,
that's
and
fantastic.
so, sometimes I like to think that I bled into her, and then sometimes I think I found strength from her in my own ways too.
I want to say that we heard something about you doing martial arts, and so that's where we were like, well, if she's doing martial arts, then she can probably pull off this sort of tough role act thing that we want her to do, and I think that's where that kind of spawned Sarah's sort of toughness from, right? I don't know,
Yeah.
in my head at
Yeah, I
least.
did martial arts for, I
Hmm.
mean, 10 years, something like that. So it was in there. There was a fighter in there to begin with.
Hmm. Hmm. The strength was there at all times. Um, I have another fun memory of you on Revenge of Zoe, where you remember we were shooting in Tad's car, and he had that red Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you understand. Yeah, you know where I'm
I
going.
should not have taken a drink right before we started talking about the car.
And it was the like it made my day where you were just like you're just like fascinated with the fact that his windows roll up like you are, and there's even the shot of you that we use in the film is of you gleefully rolling the window, like there's this look on your face just like hee as you're rolling this window. It still makes me laugh every time I see it. I don't know why, but there it is. Ugh.
Oh man, that was, I mean, it was so much fun. And I think part of it just, um, yeah, it reminds me. I mean, we've had cars like that before, but I just love finding those little things. And those are the little golden nuggets that I just feel like you either absolutely captivate the audience and they get it and they think it's hilarious and they're totally on board, or you've totally lost them. And I think in a good way though. Like if they're not in on the inside joke, well, like they missed out on it, you know?
Sort of rolling up the window like whoosh, I don't know, it was great. It cracked me up.
Did you like that storyline? The whole asshole boyfriend thing was. Do you think that was a good turn for the character at that point?
Yeah, I think it was a marked progression in sort of her maturity level and in how the guys sort of saw her too, right? I think they had always sort of seen her as just this little rugrat kind of in their way, a little bit annoying, a little bit um I don't know, a little bit infatuated with them. And I think it showed kind of her own progression into being an adult. And in that movie, I think she was also much more helpful, to, in a different way, right? She was taking on more serious roles in the business side of things and helping them. Um, and so I did like that it felt true to life in seeing how we grow up and how I was growing up and how Sarah grew up too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she felt very grown up in that movie. Like I remember I remember when you came on set for the first day of shooting with Nate, it was like you got a button up shirt on, like you look like a damn adult, like you got a button up shirt on and nice, I don't know, it was like, and you got a purse and everything, and like, at the end of the scene you're like, and I've got to go, and you put your purse on your arm, you're like you're full on, you're not a kid anymore at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not the Sarah from the previous movies. It's Sarah who's a fully formed adult and is now having to help these two morons out with their books because they can't figure it out. They've been running a comic book store for 15 years, but they still can't figure out their books. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. They are good at some things and the books are not one of them.
No, not at all.
Yeah, now she's getting to slap Pete around, and now the Owen character has arrived, and he's kind of taken over the old position that Sarah once had in the store of the, like you said, the rugrat that's in the way. Like they kind of find these strays in the world and
they collect, they adopt strays. Yeah.
And they help them, right? They adopt them and they, let them be weird and be themselves and show them that that's okay. And I will say, I was a little jealous of Owen in that movie because I was like, wait, but he gets to do all the fun. He gets to dance and he gets to dance on top of all the tables. And I want to do that too. Now I have to be all serious and grown up. So that was fun.
That's
hilarious.
I loved him
in that movie.
I did too, but that's hilarious that you say that because it would have. I think that's a grow as this filmmaker's growing. It just never would have occurred to us for you to do that in Comic Book Diaries or in Writing Fren-Zee. And by the time we got to Revenge of Zoe, it was like, hey, let's rip off Footloose and put a Kevin Bacon dance number in this bad boy. And it just
he did incredible though.
He did a really good job. Well, that boy cannot dance. There is not a rhythm bone in that poor boy's body, and there are behind the scenes stuff of me who also cannot dance having to try and walk him through just certain moves.
How do I get the film cuts of that part? I would like to see those.
I've never seen that ever. I literally think at one part I'm like, no, like this, you know. I'm like, I don't. It was pretty embarrassing. It was pretty bad, but it was also a lot of fun. Marty was like, hey, I blocked out half a day for that, and we have nothing else to do but just film this kid doing this thing, and we just pulled up the Footloose scene, that scene from the movie, and we went, all right, let's steal this shot, let's steal that shot. And you don't get it until he takes off his shirt and he goes bouncing down the comic book aisles, whipping his shirt around. Then you go, this is from Footloose, and it's just like, it's bam, and it makes me very happy, because we pulled that off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he was dancing to that song.
Mm-hmm.
What's that, Marty?
He was the actual song from Footloose was the song that he was dancing to in the store. I mean, obviously it's not in our movie, but he
Yeah.
was getting those rhythms down.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's kind of fun. I think in so many mainstream movies, we don't see, I mean, like the people who dance in the movie, even when they can't dance, they actually can dance and they're really good dancers. And so, of course, even when they're trying to make it look awkward, it still looks beautiful.
Right.
And so I kind of love that he just was awkward and silly and weird. And, I think that goes back to saying, like, just kind of they take these strays and they let them know that it's okay to be weird and different. And, like, I liked that actually came through.
God, I would say that honestly, Marty, that's probably thematic through most of our lives as people. It's like, I'm all about I'm not really about 8 to 5 or people who are really into the normal things of life. I'm all about people who are unique and a little bit different. And I tend to kind of collect those people and, hey, let's put you in a movie. Hey, let me help you out with your thing over here or whatever. And it's not. I guess it's not surprising now that I've heard it. It never occurred to me, but now that I heard it, it's not surprising we wrote that into films because we've been doing that for a while.
And then you actually get to dance with Owen in Love Song. And we didn't even know that you wanted to dance. But
That's
it happened
right.
anyway.
Yeah. Oh man, I forgot about that. That was such a fun.
Dude, that looks so
That
good.
was such a fun day. Oh, that was so much fun. I think just dancing around the comic book store. Yeah, that was a great time. I cannot wait to see what that looks like. I do remember they showed us some
A little bit of it, yeah.
bits of it from, like the next day. I think someone had put them together. They were so excited, and it looked amazing.
Yeah, I think we learned a big lesson. At least I learned a big lesson, which is don't put music that you can't use to footage of your movie because it makes it so hard for you to find music at that, because you're like, that's perfect, that's what I want. And and what do? We put Hot Stuff by Donna Summer over that clip, and it was like, it worked so perfectly that it was really tough finding a replacement song that was that's good that we could actually afford. We found one. It's great.
Yeah,
Like, I love
you
it.
leave it to Geoff, and Geoff somehow found the song that's even better. I think that fits the whole tone of the movie, but still has that energy that the Hot Stuff had initially.
Yeah, but we spent a year going, how are we gonna replace Hot Stuff?
Yeah, I wondered that because, I think Geoff has worked really hard at kind of finding these things, but I was sort of curious, I guess, how late in the game does he find them? How early? How does that whole process work? Because
It's all over the place because sometimes he has songs before, and then sometimes he has to go looking for them. So yeah, it's pretty much everything you just said there. It's a before, during, and after process with him.
It's also kind of depends on how picky we're being. Like, like that's not really working for us, Geoff. And he's like, all right, I'll go. Well, let me go dig into my collection and find something. Like, he found a song for us that is an old bandmate's. It was a 45, and they had to take it to a studio and have it digitized. They didn't have a digital copy of it for us to use, so they took a perfect 45 that had never been played for, took it to a studio and had it mastered onto an MP3 for us. And the song's awesome. It's great. We're definitely going to use it, but it's like, he did that because it was like, well, there's nothing else that we wanted. And he went and it was like, well, how about this one? And it was like, yeah, that's great. He's like, okay, well, now I have to get that digitized. Let me go do that for you. So,
well, and I love that because it's something that's going to be new and really
yeah.
not overdone, right? Which I think is so special.
It's one of the one of the things I've been super pleased with the last two, and we've talked about this when we told Jeff this, but he was, he and Eric brought everything up to another level, right? And that last music soundtrack for Revenge of Zoe and this love song soundtrack is just, it's fantastic. It's like having your favorite 80s music, like we talked about great soundtracks, you go back to those 80s films, they've got these killer soundtracks, and he's just put two of them together for us that are just, I'm so happy.
Yeah, bringing Eric in, yeah, as you remember, the levels went up again. But then when Eric brings Geoff in during Revenge of Zoe, it was like, oh, we're like a band now, the four of us. What one of us can't do, the other one probably can. Oh, we got a problem? Don't try to solve it yourself. Ask the other three. They probably have the solution. And that's been working great for about 5 years so far. Like Geoff, he brought all of, in addition to the music, he brought all the set decoration and art decoration to it. Where it was, well, as before, it would be like, just hurry up and shoot the scene, and the location looks cool. Now he would be like, no, let's put a poster here and little trinkets here and there, and then he's having to remember where all those things are on top of it. So
and he's
amazing how
making things specifically for the shoot. That was the crazy part. Like he's making media for the shoot.
Oh, I mean, it was incredible. The creativity and the caliber of the things that he was creating and the details of them, that, I mean, I hope that people can see in there, because it brought the set to life in a really cool way that felt like it was no longer a comic book store. It was this particular comic book store that we were in Pete's comic book store. You know what I mean? And that was really cool.
Boy, that was a wild day of shooting. That day that you were in the Fren-Zee outfit with Autumn. I mean, there was probably 25 people in that store, probably 20 people in that store.
So many people.
So many people. And I mean, that's probably the most amount of people I've ever had on a set before and had to, Marty and I've had to wrangle basically
all at once. Probably right. Yeah.
Brutal.
I mean, there was that memorial scene in Fren-Zee where everybody was outside, but everybody's just sitting in their chairs.
Everybody's just sitting there. Yeah,
this is the same as you all have to try to attack Owen at the same time.
Yeah, multiple things going on. You've got Autumn and her over here. You've got Owen and his attack, and you've got the breaking all that up and dragging him into the back and that whole deal. And yeah, it's fantastic.
And it's a good thing we shot that when we did, because getting that whole group of people that tight without any masks or anything, that wasn't going to happen a month or two later. So, but we were the right time to get that done.
That was like the week before everything shut down, basically.
Literally.
That was the only time that it could have possibly been done, because I remember when I flew back to California after shooting with you guys, I think there were like 10 people on my entire plane. I mean, everything was shut down at that point. I was amazed I could even get back.
Same with me. I actually didn't fly. I called the airport. I called the airport and said, I'm not going to fly. So I called Enterprise and said, I'm going to drive. Do you have a car? And they said, yeah, here's a brand new Dodge Ram pickup at $17 a day, one way.
Yeah.
And it cost me $75 to drive. I stayed in a hotel halfway there. It cost me $75 to drive from Tucson to Oklahoma City in gas and in the truck rental to get there. I'm sorry, not
serious?
With the gas, probably more like 120, but it was shockingly cheap. I couldn't believe it. They were literally just throwing, because nobody was renting vehicles at that point. It was before everybody caught in the pandemic that, I'll go rent a vehicle and all that. Nobody wanted to travel or touch anything,
so the Lysol before you got
it. Dude, he pulls me up to the thing, and I've got a can of Lysol in my backpack and sanitizing wipes and alcohol swabs. So I'm like spraying all the door handles and spraying the steering wheel, and you remember that whole thing.
Oh yeah.
So
absolutely.
I just Lysoled it down, and then of course I stayed in the hotel room, Lysoled it down, then re-Lysoled the truck and drove home. It was hysterical.
Yeah, we originally were going to have like another 3 or 4 days, but we decided to stop for many reasons. But the main reason was we don't know if people are going to be able to go back home if we keep going until Friday. It turns out they would have, but we didn't know. So we had to stop early and then finish the next year.
Yeah, we had one or two actors that were like, "Look, I'm kind of at my limit with this."
They were hit their breaking
Like
point.
I mean, risk is one thing, but like we're at the point of my ability to risk what's going on, my willingness to risk my health on this. And it was like, yeah, I mean, I get that. I can't argue that. I understood. We got almost all of it.
It is interesting, how it affected everything, because we were going to shoot at Charlie's store last, right? And those were the scenes that we didn't get done. And then in the interim, his store went away. And so we had to build our own fake store, which is where Geoff comes in, finding the location and building it from scratch to make it look like a store. And so this is the first one of the series that wasn't shot in
Charlie's
store. It's very
What?
shocking.
I know. I was as heartbroken as you are, dude.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we didn't want to do it, but we
I pushed so hard to shoot in that store, and
unique
it just
set,
couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
I told Mario, I was like, dude, this is not. We have to shoot in his store. We have to shoot in his store. Couldn't happen. And then he went out of business, and it was like, well, and now we're not doing it. Yeah.
Charlie.
I know.
What is he up to? Do you guys know?
Yeah, he's retired.
So sweet.
Now. He was running the business from home for a while, but then he decided to just, so he's just reading a lot and just enjoying life and not really worrying about much. So I talk to him about every couple of weeks or so.
Oh, good. That makes me happy.
Yeah, he's
such a sweet guy.
We'll have to have him on the podcast because he was really big, instrumental. Like I remember when we wrote the first script and Marty was like, "There's no way we're gonna have to build a comic book store. We're gonna have to rent a space. We're gonna have to build a comic book store. We're gonna have to blah blah blah." And we ended up basically talking about it, and let me make some phone calls, and finally called Charlie, and Charlie was like, "Bring your butt down here and shoot whatever you need to shoot," and was the easiest guy to work with. I mean, we literally invaded that guy's business for 2-3 weeks at a time, pushing him around, using his electricity, 10, 15 people eating, making Charlie's a routine type of dude. He likes to listen to his music. He's got things he does, and we really messed that up for him, but he was just as gracious as he could be about it.
Oh yeah, he was the sweetest, kindest person. And I did love sometimes when we'd have to be like, okay, no, wait, Charlie needs to do something. He needs to make this sale. He needs to do X, Y, or Z. Like, everyone stop and let's let Charlie actually have his running comic book store. Or, we'd shoot after hours and stuff like that. But yeah, he's the sweetest.
Yep. I always remember having to ask you to turn the music off. Charlie,
turn the music off. Charlie, turn the music back on, Charlie.
Because the minute we'd stop shooting, he'd sneak back over there on his computer and click, and you wouldn't even notice it. And then you're like, if you just kind of bobbing your head, good tunes, and then suddenly you're like, oh, can we turn that off, please? I gotta shoot something. That's hilarious.
Occasionally, you'll see him in the background of a shot. We play it off like he's just a customer in the store, but it's like, well, why is that customer sitting at that desk there? Well, he's reading. Yes, that's.
Yeah, he's a returning customer. Right. There are other actors who were returning customers, so he's the best one of all.
How was it working with Tad, having a boyfriend type character in Revenge and all that thing? Because you went through a kind of an arc with him, the boyfriend who seems like he's all that and then isn't type of thing, So I'm curious how that went.
I think it went good. I think it's a relatable storyline, to kind of have this partner that you think is so great and so wonderful, and then you sort of realize, no, that's not true. And so I think that was really easy to relate to. It was a little bit hard to hate him because he's actually really nice.
Yeah, he's a great dude.
So
Tally is a great dude. Love that guy.
So yeah, so it was hard to be mad at him because he did make me laugh and stuff on set.
You guys seem to have a good time while you were on set together.
We did, except some of the times he just falls asleep. He would just like fall straight asleep in a chair, like between things. It's like, how is he asleep? There's so much going on. There's so much noise. And he sat down for 30 seconds and he'd just be like, out.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I remember that. I remember him saying, how do you guys do it? how do you stay up and do all this, man? I don't know how you do it. And it's like, we just do it, man. We just do it.
Dude,
Oh
you're
no,
like,
Mary's
what are
taking a
you,
nap.
20 years old? What do you mean? You should be running around circles around us at this point.
It's funny you mentioned that the story dynamic with him was the relationship that you thought was good, but it turned out it wasn't, because that's totally John's storyline in Comic Book Diaries with his angry ex-girlfriend who trashes stuff in the store.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we kind of hit that theme up again. We gave it to your character that time around.
Yeah, only it was better. I think it worked. I felt like it worked better this time
Yeah,
too.
it did. It did.
Well, and I think one of the things that I liked about Sarah and Tad was just that he what made her realize that he wasn't all that was really just how he interacted with the guys and how the guys interacted with him, and how just he just really didn't fit in with her world and what she was looking for, and the kind of person and things that she finds fun. And so I think I loved that it wasn't anything in particular that he like did, but she just was like, this doesn't fit in with my life and these guys who mean so much to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's that one of my favorite scenes in the movie is you bring him in for the meet, and they mess with him. They're obviously screwing with him, and of course they threaten him, and then you're like, okay, thanks guys, you kind of could have been worse, I guess, and you leave, and then the two of them are just kind of watching you leave, and like, no way, there's just this whole side conversation that happens with the two of them of like, nope, that's not the guy. Like, that's not it. Now, but they don't tell you that. They don't come to you and say, hey, this guy's terrible. They let you work it out, but they still know it's like, that's never going to happen. That's not the guy at all.
Well, because if they had told Sarah that, she would have dug her heels in,
Right.
right? Like,
Right.
and they know that about her, and so obviously they had to let her find it out herself.
Yeah. I think that's some pretty good subtext that, like, if you follow those, if you were watch those movies, you go, oh, they did that for a reason. Like, they know her well enough that they did that for a reason. Yeah. Yeah, it was really good. And then, of course, later on, when you do the group hug, is one of my favorite shots and scenes in the entire movie. Is, where you come running into you walk in laughing at them, like, what the hell, you want to get in on this? Hell yeah. You just come jumping into this group hug, and of course Tad is like, I don't want anything to do with that.
Great.
Yeah. And that it felt very real, I think, for like me too, as a person.
Same here.
Like it was very comforting and very like, it
Genuine.
almost felt like something we would do.
Yes, very much so. Yes. I remember being a little bit jealous myself that I wasn't going to be able to be in that group hug, because it looked like a pretty good group hug, honestly.
Yeah, and not to give away too many behind the scenes secrets, but Bobby, the DP on the movie, he did some pretty amazing special effects work on that scene, because we shot it at night, but it was supposed to be daytime, and he went back in. He went back to the store by himself months later, shot new plates to put in. So when you watch the movie, it's all digital daytime inserted behind you and Tad during the hugging sequence.
Yeah, he did such a good job.
He did a really good job of making it. I don't even notice it. Yeah.
I remember when I watched that scene and I thought about, did they have lights on out there that I didn't? Thinking that we had lights on outside, because I remember it being night and then it was day, and I was like, they must have like turned on some lights or something, and I didn't notice.
Right,
because it looked seamless.
Yeah, I was really impressed with that, because we were like, what are we gonna do? We should have. That's something that fell through the cracks, right? Because it was like an 11-hour day of shooting, which most industry professionals are like, oh, that's nothing, but it was wearing us down.
For us,
yeah, three cameras running at the same time, which is just crazy. But then we look at back, and I think we were trying not to shoot the window was the idea, but then you kind of had to shoot the window. But in the end, you'd never know. And now everybody who watches the movie are going to be looking at that and be like,
oh, oh, I could totally see. Whatever.
Mm-hmm. As far as working on films go, is there another role that you would be interested in doing outside of just acting?
Oh, Yeah, there. I think I love. I would love to do screenwriting. I think that would be so much fun. I think it would be so hard because I do think I'm a perfectionist, and so getting that story fully fleshed out is something that I think is so hard to me, because I think there's a difference between having an idea and starting an idea and having something that is completely fleshed out bit by bit, details, all of these things that you are thinking about and picturing in your head. But I think that that seems like such a fun, incredibly rewarding, incredibly cool. I mean, just to be able to do all of that, I think it's really cool. So that would be a lot of fun.
I think it's cool too.
It really kind of is, because I mean it's hard like anything else. All filmmaking is just a lot of hard work, like anything. But it is gratifying when those characters start to take on that life of their own, and I mean, you're still writing it, but it's kind of, you're just following
Yeah, you're
them.
just doing what the characters are supposed to do.
And then once you bring all the actors and everybody else into it, and they start bringing in their parts, and it just, like you're saying earlier, it becomes something better, or the unexpected thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that would be so fun and satisfying to see something that came out of just a spark of an idea, right? To flourish into something that becomes way more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Well,
Early
and that's
on, go ahead, Cliff. Go ahead.
no, please. I was just going to say real quickly. I think that's how we got from movie to movie to movie, was one spark of an idea, which turned into the next
Mm-hmm.
thing, which was the next thing. Like I said, we never intended to do 2 sequels.
Right. Yeah. Early on, I would think, like I was saying, like, oh, this is the story, and don't change it, and I want it to be specifically this. And now I've come out the other end of, oh, you can change everything as long as the essence of what we were going for comes through in the end, because that's what serves the story, serves the movie. And I think that's one of the real tricks, is you got to know what you want, but at the same time you got to be open to all the ideas wherever they might come from.
Yeah, and it's I think like sometimes the spark of the idea is such a small specific piece that it's easy to get lost and not see the huge big picture. So it's
Mm-hmm.
nice to hear that hopefully the big picture is what comes together
Oh,
nicely, even if the details are changed.
Mm-hmm.
it is. It's yeah, it's like I think I've said this to you and others on set. Like, you don't have to be married to the words on the page. Just get the gist across. Hit the joke. Just please make sure you hit the joke, and then just get the gist of it across. I know I just wrote you a paragraph, and I know it's a wordy script. You don't have to say every word exactly like that. Just
Mm-hmm.
get the gist of what we're trying to say, hit the joke, and that's fine. Because that gives that gives the actor the freedom to kind of make it their own a little bit. And especially if they're in tune with the character, they're gonna do that. And I mean, having played that character 4 freaking times, it's like she's
We
got it.
trust that, it's just like you and Eric and Nate and Bradford and Paul, everybody who keeps coming back and playing these characters, like, oh, you know the character probably better than we do at this point. We have ideas of who they are and what they do, but we run that past you. I don't think we ever had anything where you or any of them came up to us and said, I don't think so and so would do this. But even if you did, we would have really taken it into consideration, because,
Absolutely.
well, you're the other part of bringing that to life.
Yeah, I think that was so fun. And it made it kind of, I think, less stressful to know that, like, oh, if I say this word in a different order, or drop this one word or whatever, because it just doesn't flow, or that's not how Sarah's saying it as
Mm-hmm.
she's smacking someone.
Right.
It worked out well. Um, Although I do know there's one person in particular that you had to rein in sometimes, about making sure that they hit the right joke instead of their own very hilarious jokes.
Yes.
Also.
Yes. Our boy Nate. Yeah. It was always just give me one like I wrote it, and then we'll do. And then he caught on to that. Like, that was our trick early on. Was like, just do one like we wrote it, And then he go, okay, now can I do mine? I'm like, nope, we're moving on, man. We ain't got any time for that. And then so after a while, he was like, no, I'm not playing that game anymore. I'm just going to do the line. And he kind of does like Kevin Smith describes Ben Affleck doing the same thing in Chasing Amy, right? Where he just adds a little zinger to the end of it, and so Nate would start adding these little things at the end of it where it's like, stop, dude, please, no. And then sometimes they were hilarious. And it was like, all right, we'll leave that one in. That was really good.
I think we're finally getting to the point with him where he knows, or he's learning when to bring it in, because he was our Cinderella story. He had never done anything before, and he came into the audition much like you did, and we were like, oh, this guy's got the energy, we'll bring him in. And so now we've hopefully imparted it enough to him to where, and I think he gets it. Like, if we get to the end of a scene and we haven't called cut yet, that's your time to go.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I know, but you call cut too fast. And it's like, yeah, I know.
yeah, we do.
We'll get into a rhythm here with you.
No, I think in the most recent one, I feel like there were a couple good times where he really found a little bit of space to throw his own little razzle dazzle in there, which is always really fun. But I do have to remember that he's going to do it, because otherwise I'll lose it.
Yeah, I remember he said in one of the we interviewed him for the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he said yeah, I do that up until I hear Marty say, "As it is on the page, please." And he said that's my cue. He said, you do it really nicely. He's like, it's very calm. It's like, it's just like it's written on the page, please. And he's like, and that's my cue to, okay, it's screwing around here.
Yeah, Marty's good at that. About, like, you can tell Marty's mood a little bit whenever it's like, okay, nope, he's done. And it's just like this very subtle shift that I think maybe Nate didn't pick up on him at first, but yeah, it's but he's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you've been there for all, like, you've been there for all of it. Like, you've been there for the meltdowns, you've been there for the like all of that stuff. Like, you've literally been there. It's so funny. Like, all of it. And again, we don't have it's one meltdown usually on a set. It's usually between me and Marty, and it's usually over quickly. But it's usually over something so dumb that everybody else is standing around going,
like, really?
What's the problem?
Really, guys? I thought
that's the thing. That's the thing that's really okay. I think that this one was about. I think the last one was about the placard or something, or some sort of dance thing we were doing.
It's one of my favorite arguments on set, actually, because we've gotten so used to these things that I was like, oh, here it comes. I'm thinking in the back of my head, we're at this part now. So he's just like, you shoot the thing. And he goes outside. I'm like, okay, I will. Okay, now you guys do this and this. And the shot is in the movie. And it's just like,
I was like, good. Like, let him move on. I'm going to cool off out here. This is hilarious.
And you were like, okay, you guys just dance for a little bit. Yep. And then the next thing you know, we were back at it. But
yep, we're done.
And previously, it might have been where everything shut down for like 15 minutes or something. This time's like, here, pass the baton. You go here. Going. I'll do this. Yep. And I remember even you, Julie, were looking at me almost like, because like you could feel the tension in the air. And a lot of it had to do with March 2020, and we're constantly.
It was just stress. Yeah, it had nothing to do with what was going on set. It was just the stress had finally built up.
Right.
That was it.
I know that shot. Okay, but we gotta get the shot. The sun's going down. That typical on set type shit.
Were you there, Julie? Were you there for the warm bakery? Were you there for the warm all the baked goods from the bakery next door during the shoot at the comic book store?
At the Isle of Games.
At Isle of Games, because there was a bakery next door to us. Some of my favorite memories. There's a bakery next door to Isle of Games, and every morning we get there at 6 or 7, and they'd have their doors open, and it's just fresh French bread coming out of that place. And I'd go in there and buy croissants and hot cross buns and stuff and pass them out. I don't know if you remember that or not. Were you there for that?
Yeah, I mean, I remember eating them. Yes, I remember also being in my costume and being like, Should I really be eating all of these?
I forgot about that. That's hilarious.
I was like, maybe I should film the scene first, and then I'll have like 5 of these donuts
You were in the
and
street clothes
croissants.
when we went to Carl's Jr., right? I can't remember.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if she was in costume at Carl's Jr.
Yeah, I can't remember. Were you in costume at Carl's Jr.?
I was in costume. We walked over. I put on. I had a big old
That's what
sweater.
it was.
I just
Yes.
like wrapped around myself. I felt like eating in just a bra was like not the best vibe for most people who were eating. I wanted to make sure that the businesses around us still liked us.
So outside of film, we always, here on this podcast, we're presuming everybody's first main interest in their life is movie making. But what would be your secondary interest? I mean, Cliff and I already know the answer to this, but it'll be what you choose to share with the podcast audience, of course.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I work in healthcare. I'm a doctor. And so I think, let me tell you, acting and doctoring are both very hard careers. They are not easy. And so I do think it's kind of funny that I feel like, acting is absolutely an uphill battle for everyone who's in it. And I mean, you can get lucky and you can get good roles and you can get in with the best people and you still maybe don't even have success, right? Even if you have the best role, it just might not get you anywhere. And so I do think it's kind of funny that I pivoted from something that is very challenging to something that is also very challenging and has a lot of uphill battles and a lot of obstacles in the way. But yeah,
I
guess I just like a challenge.
It still boggles my mind. You're a doctor. Like, I mean, I get it. I know you were biology and this and that, and I mean, as we talked and you've grown up and all that type of stuff, but it's just like she's a doctor. She's this big, right? She's 14 and she's got magic cards that she needs to sell. Like, what? She's a doctor. Anyway, super proud of you. That's awesome.
Thank you. I still have the the black dyed hair and ripped jeans. They're just on the inside because it's not as a professional package.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure this isn't just a single answer. We could almost go through each movie, but what were some of your favorite moments on set with us?
Let's go through each movie. I'd love to hear about if you can remember one from each movie. That would be awesome.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see.
So, Comic Book Diaries.
Comic Book Diaries, I think I was just all nerves and I was just all trying to make everyone like proud. And I was, like I said, I was so incredibly flattered that like this character had gotten regendered just for me. And so I was like, okay, I can't let him down, right? I have to be just full of fire. And so I think I remember there was one point where I looked over and I saw you guys like sort of nodding and I was like, yes, okay, I did it. It's okay. Like I'm doing something good. They're nodding, so that's probably okay. And so I think that was it was very rewarding to see that, to feel that in the middle of a scene even. Yeah.
Writing Fren-Zee.
Writing Fren-Zee. Oh man.
You had a much bigger role in Writing Fren-Zee.
Yeah, so it's hard to pick because there were so many fun moments. I mean, fun moments in front of the camera when I was running a vacuum into people and slapping people with comic books and all sorts of fun things like that. But I also just I enjoyed a lot of the moments like behind the scenes, feeling like very accepted by all of the guys on set. I think it could have been really, really awkward and really terrible for me to be this like lone girl on set, this kid, right? And it never felt like that. And so there was just a lot of laughs and a lot of fun. I will never forget having to study chemistry between things. being like,
amazing.
okay, Marty's ready to get food. Something. Okay, I'm gonna study. Hold on. Don't talk to me. No, I don't want to run lines right now. Hold on, I have a test.
Oh, I wish I had a picture of that. That's great. So revenge. Do you have a favorite form of revenge?
Ooh, also very fun.
You had your bachelorette party while you were shooting that, right?
Yes, I did. I'm amazed you remember that. Yeah. Um, and my best friend, she flew in and surprised me. So she was there. I didn't even know she was going to be there. So that was a lot of fun. I think um, on on set was probably my favorite moment, aside from rolling up the little windows.
Yes.
Was I remember I had made a bet. I think I bet Cliff. I was like, okay, you have to give me $5 if I do this in one take. And it was literally just walking up to the mark and saying hi guys or something. And I didn't do it. And it was like, oh my God, I felt so embarrassed. It was the easiest take and I failed. I like looked down at the mark and everything.
Oh my
I was
God.
like,
That's
oh my God,
fantastic.
what am I doing here? Why do these guys invite me back? Um, and then I think I had a lot of fun hanging out. I think we had done this photo shoot, Sarah and Owen, we had done this photo shoot out front. That was a ton of fun too. I love some of those pictures. I think I
Those
still
are
have
some
them on my
great
computer.
pictures. Yeah, those are some
I would
great
love
pictures.
to find the rest of them because they were so much fun.
We've got access to all that
Yeah, we
stuff. Let
should
us know
send
if
you
you
all
want
that stuff.
and
Yeah.
we can send you copies of all that stuff. Not a problem.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I would love to see any of the old things that you have from the sets, or like Marty, you had mentioned my audition tape.
Oh yeah, it's somewhere in the archives. Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, we gotta
Ever find
get that
those?
to her.
All right.
That's got to be somewhere covered in dust, and but that would be fun to watch.
So, love song.
Love
Yeah, yeah,
song.
love song.
Love song. Man, it was just so much fun to be in the costume. I got to be in the costume. That was so much fun. And then I think the throwing dollar bills
Oh yeah.
into the
Owen.
mouth was a lot of fun. We were like Cloroxing the dollar bills and stuff
Right.
before
Oh my
we did
God.
them. But we were all just throwing
We're
them over
worried
there.
about COVID. We're hand sanitizing the dollar bills before we wad them up and throw them in an actor's mouth. Oh my God, I forgot about that.
And I think it was supposed to be Nate who was throwing them, like in the scene. It's supposed to be Pete, right? And but I think Cliff and I were like throwing them.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah,
like,
because
I was
Nate
like,
was
oh,
throwing. I was like, well,
I
give me
want
one.
to
I'll
do
throw
this.
them.
I
Like,
want
I
to come and
missed. And
throw.
then you
It's
were like,
not
give me
even
one
on
of those.
camera. I
Let's
don't
try
care,
that.
but it was so
We
much
ended up
fun.
all three of us chunking dollar bills in his mouth.
Yeah, that was tons of fun.
That's one of the
Yeah.
special effects that we had done where we had somebody erase the string
It
and then
works.
we run the footage backwards so it looks like it.
Oh no, and Owen's and we part of it was Owen's
Yeah,
mouth. He wouldn't
even
open his
between the
mouth up
three of
wide
us, we
enough to
couldn't get
really
it
like
right.
Right.
make a landing zone for the dollar bill, right? So we ended up having to put a string to it and yank it out of his mouth instead. So it worked.
So, do you have anything you want to plug? I mean, obviously, motherhood is coming up. You could plug that.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It seems like also a very hard job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Is it you know if it's boy or girl, or are you?
Oh, it's a secret.
Mm.
It's a secret. You're not telling. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you'll tell us eventually. Wait, we'll find out.
Yeah. Everyone will find out. Um, we are trying to avoid the ballerinas or baseball sort of dichotomy.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, okay, gotcha.
So we're trying to keep it a surprise. I have almost slipped up, but we'll see.
Playing the pronoun game.
When's the projected due date?
Beginning of March.
Oh.
Wow, that's not long.
There's that
Pondo baby.
Yeah.
I know. Well,
I'm
when are
So
we
excited.
gonna see a premiere, guys?
Oh, it's coming. Oh, it's coming. Um, we were talking about, we think we want to do an online premiere,
Ooh,
like an online viewing party just for the cast and the crew, so we can all get together in a big like a big Zoom meeting or something, and we'll just watch the film. And then,
yeah.
yeah, and then we're gonna do um, the normal circuit with
Some film
film
festival.
festivals and all that stuff. So we we'll look for one in Montana. If there's one around, we'll apply to it. And if we get in, you take your butt down there and see it. But you got
Yeah.
speaking of which, you got the best experience that
True.
even Marty and I haven't had. You got the best experience of all. You got to see it at Grauman's Chinese Theater.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Oh my
You
gosh,
and
that was
Bradford.
so cool. That was so cool. Yeah, Bradford was there too, I think, right?
Yes, yes, he
Um,
was. Yes,
that was so much fun. And now anytime I see, clips of LA on
right.
movies or anything, you always see the Chinese theater, right? And I'm like, yeah,
I've
I
been
have
on that
watched
screen.
myself on a screen in there. That was just, oh my God. That was such a fantastic, uh, a kind of out of body experience. Like, what? This is actually happening?
I was so
Um,
proud that we got there first, and then that we got some actors who actually got to go to it. I
Yeah.
was just like, I was like, that was so amazing.
Oh yeah, I drove across the state to be there. I drove all the way from Sacramento down to LA. I was
Wow,
not gonna miss that. I was not at all gonna miss that.
wow, that's cool.
And that was another one
Yeah.
of those right before shutdown activities that was right January or February. So it's so good that that happened right when it did, because otherwise that wouldn't have happened. And I'm
Yep.
very glad that, of all people, somebody who's been with us so freaking long got to go
Yes,
experience one of the big highlights. It's like, yes, represent.
probably the best screening we've ever had would have been. I mean, as far as the event, the venue,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you can't beat Grauman's. We,
No, you can't. That's
Jeff,
incredible.
Jeff and Anissa, my wife, we all got to see it. We went to Vegas and saw it. It played at they have a film festival at the Orleans Casino in Las Vegas. They have a 16 screen movie theater on the second floor of the casino. And so they had the film festival there, and we got to see it on a really big screen. It was really nice, big sound system and all, but it sure wasn't Grauman's.
Yeah.
I only ever saw it at
Well,
Tucson. So
Yeah.
but the next movie, I'm definitely taking myself to one of these big screenings somewhere. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. We want to do some festivals like we're gonna try and do one in down in Valdosta, Georgia. That's where Olivia is. We want to
ooh,
do one in Tucson or somewhere in Arizona. Heck, Montana. Well, who knows? Maybe there's one close somewhere we can do there. Whatever. But we're gonna at least shoot for those, so at least we can, if it's local, maybe somebody can show up and represent and see the film and
Mm-hmm.
enjoy it.
yeah.
It's more of our
Yeah,
victory
that's a
lap
great
for
idea.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Give as many victory
Because
laps as
everyone
we can.
is pretty spread out now,
Yeah.
right?
It's like the gang's all grown up and moved on to college or something. Jeff's in New Mexico
Yeah.
and you're in Montana, and yeah, Olivia's in Georgia, and everybody's all over the place now. I'm in
Well,
Oklahoma.
hey, Cliff, where are you exactly?
I'm in Oklahoma. Yes.
You're not where we started either, so
No, no, I wish. I love this bit. Yeah, that's another long story for another podcast at another time. How Cliff ended up in Oklahoma.
well, so are you two going to do a podcast where people interview you or you interview each other and you talk about that? Because I would also really love to hear that.
So one of the episodes that we're going to do is us interviewing each other. Yeah,
Oh, good.
Marty was like, we should probably have a podcast where we just talk with each other about ourselves and about the movies and all that stuff. So yeah, we're going to do one of those.
Yes, please. I can't wait to hear that. And
I mean,
please go. You can also, dig out things from the archives, which I'm sure you still have from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
oh God,
Yeah,
dude,
there's some
there's
old stuff.
yeah, there's 30 years of video that we have that we can show
Mm-hmm.
people. That's a lot of stuff. Some of it will never see the light of day because it doesn't need to, and some of it's actually pretty funny.
Right.
Yep.
Well, you had the luxury of making some of these before the internet existed. So or at least before it was everything in the world was on the internet
Yeah.
and never died.
If we had done our television show, our public access show when the internet was around, we wouldn't have survived. We wouldn't. The things that we got away with on that show, you just wouldn't get away with nowadays. It'd be a controversial firestorm of craziness.
I feel like I remember watching one of these on YouTube though.
Yeah, there's some out
Because you
there.
put a couple up there.
Some
Okay,
good
all right.
They're on YouTube. Yeah, you can catch them. Yeah, we were crazy. I mean, look, we didn't go. It wasn't wild, but at the same time, like, honestly, I can't imagine being on social media after an episode of one of those shows on a Friday night. I just can't. I can't imagine.
Oh, it's a whole different world. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
so isolated then.
Yeah. All the thing we had to worry about was people every now and then driving down to the studio and threatening to kick our asses.
That never
Other than
happened.
that,
though.
we were good to
They'd
go.
call up and say,
Wait, what?
and then you'd meet them.
Well-
and they'd be like, "We're your biggest fan. We call up and harass you every week, and we thought it was funny."
Usually we was just us taunting people and daring them, which never happened. Anywho, we will drag out some of the old footage for you because that would be fun. I bet you. I bet you probably haven't ever seen your audition tape, so I bet you that would be pretty funny.
Yeah,
I've never seen that.
yeah, I know where that is.
You know right where it is.
Oh,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh, of course you do, Marty.
Yeah, yeah, he knows where all the hard drives. He's got all the hard drives. They're all buried with him. All the secrets.
That old mini DV tape somewhere.
Let's see. Do you have anything? So nothing to plug other than, hey, it's Dr. Julie. Come see Dr. Julie if you're in Montana. She'll pick you right up.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. I'm here. I'm here to listen, here to help. A woman of many talents.
Get that right. We really appreciate you coming on. It's been so good to see you. We
Yeah.
don't talk enough. I don't get to see you enough. And your life's turning out awesome. I can't wait to see these babies. I want to see pictures of babies and stuff. Oh, we're just gonna throw it out there. Just consider it. Just don't give us an answer now. Consider it. Let it marinate. Maybe the middle name of the baby is Pondo.
Oh God, don't do that.
Just let it. Just let it. Just don't. Just let it. Just shh. Just think about it. Maybe it happens. Maybe. I'm just saying.
Wait until I'm exhausted and tired and signing a birth certificate.
Exactly. And then it'll come to you and be like, William Pondo. Well, fine, here. Oh,
Nicholas Schaffer.
we did it. Well, it's going to be a Pondo baby. We got to at least try for a Pondo name, right, Marty? Because we know we're going to put your baby in a movie, right?
Yes. The next generation.
Right.
Next generation, indeed.
Oh my gosh.
We got Christina's child in the previous one, so keep that going.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, you guys know if whatever you create next, I'll be there in whatever way I can for you guys. It's so much fun working with you guys over so many years, and you guys have treated me so well, and I love it.
Well, you're like
You guys
family.
keep me connected to kind of this creative bit that brings me so much joy.
Yeah, I can't imagine making a movie without you in some capacity. Seriously, I can't. Like, dude, find a day, find a role, find a something. We got to put Julie in the movie. That's gonna happen. So,
Yeah, I'll be there.
right on.
You let me know
Next
where
one,
and when.
Next one may be horror, so you may be. Who knows?
I'll come and scream or run away in the background, whatever's there. I'll be there.
You can be like, actually, when you cut the jugular, that's not the way the blood flows. I'm a doctor. I know these things. Thank you.
Yes, I would give you notes on that kind of stuff because it does drive me a little bit wild how often they get those so wrong.
Do they really? Like on
The number of
television shows and
times-
stuff?
Yeah, the number of times that people have like they spit up blood so easily. I'm like, why? What on earth did they hit that made you spit up blood. Like they got your arm and you're spitting up blood. Like it drives you crazy.
I've heard a lot of doctors, not a lot, but I've heard some doctors complain of that, like intubating is one of the things that they get wrong constantly on like medical shows. I don't know why. Like, I guess the procedure, what is a little more, it takes longer or it's more complicated or what, because they make it look like, oh, here you go, flashlight, shove the tube down his throat, we're good, type of thing, which is, they say it's a little tougher than
It is. I mean, hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's that easy. But if it's that easy, you shouldn't be doing it. But but anyways, so whatever you guys need me for, I'll be there.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, it's something's coming down the pipe. We're working on a couple different things, so eventually you'll hear from us again saying,
Oh, yeah.
hey, guess what?
Okay. I can't wait to hear what you guys create next. What the next idea is that you follow down this path.
Marty's got an interesting one. I think you'll like it. He's got an interesting take on a horror movie. It's not something I've heard before, so I'm excited.
Ooh. Okay. Cool.
Well, Julie,
very different.
Thanks for being here. We really appreciate you. You're the best.
Right, I appreciate you guys too.
You're the best. We'll contact you. We'll probably have you on again next season or season after, kind of follow up after the baby's born, all that kind of stuff. Maybe after the movie's released, we could talk about it and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, fun. Cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. I'm so excited.
I really want you to see it. I think you're gonna be super happy with it. I think everybody. It's the next step up from Revenge.
Yeah. And like we're saying, we'll put that screening together and we'll let you know when that's going to happen. That should only be, January or February, I'm hoping. So, yeah.
Oh, that's so soon. Okay.
Yeah. We'll get it right before you go. We'll have all the baby stuff. We'll get you showing.
Yeah. Well, and then I can just sit and rewatch while I'm on maternity leave.
Right. There you go.
Bye, guys.
Bye.